Okay, hi everyone. If you're new, for whatever reason, I think we may have a few new people here. Great. Anyway, the way it works is that I will share with you a few pearls of infinite wisdom, and Jackson will come on with his angelic voice and sing like a bird. And after that, I will lead us in with an invocative prayer, and Jackson will finish up. And then we will bring on our spiritually anointed sensei of, of spiritualism, which is Reverend Angelica.
And there's a moment of silence after you drop those pearls of wisdom
This is true.
before he speaks. So if anybody goes, wow, something's happened, somebody's muted or whatever, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay, so being serious now. This is from This Thing Called You by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Every man is a doorway, as Emerson said, through which the infinite passes into the finite, through which God becomes man, through which the universal becomes individual. You are to believe with utmost simplicity and with complete faith that there is a pattern of your being or a real spirit of you, which is as eternal as God, as indestructible, whoops, as reality, and as changeless as truth. This pattern is seeking to manifest through you. Back of it is all the will and purpose of the universe, all the irresistible laws of being. Finally, it will win.
I see joy, I see peace, I see goodness surrounding me. I see love in every breath I breathe. I see God in everything. I see happiness, I see freedom. I see the beauty that lives in me. I see perfection in what life brings. I see God in everything.
I see God in everything. There is only one love. There is only one life. And that life is the fabric of the universe. It is simply all that is. It's a life that is shared by everything, by all of us. It permeates, and we live within, through, and as this life. We are gathered here today, this Sunday, as we do each Sunday, to celebrate that wonderful existence. We are here to learn of our place in this apparent reality, and to know that we are more than this apparent reality. In fact, we exist in spirit as we do in form. We are God incarnate here. We are not all of God, but we are manifestations of that wonderful being. And as so, there is much that we do. We create with our thoughts. We create with our words. We create constantly because we are using the force that God has in his cosmic box of crayons to color just simply everything. We are using the erector set that God has to build simply everything in this world. And as we praise God, we understand that there is so much that we need to remember about who we are. And to that point, we are here today to listen to the words of Reverend Angelica, who is here to remind us of our greatness, of our immortality, of who we really are. And there is God in everything, and we are God, and so it is.
I feel joy, I feel peace, I feel goodness surrounding me. I feel love in every breath I breathe. I feel God in everything. I feel happiness, I feel freedom. I feel the beauty that lives in me. I feel perfection in what life brings. I feel God in everything.
And now we welcome to our virtual podium our spiritual mother, the mother of the church, and our most beloved Reverend Angelica Taggart.
Thank you very much, Edward. And thank you, Edward and Jackson, for that perfect contemplative meditation this morning. You know, my talk this morning is called We Are Greater Than Me. And this is something that I think is a really important message right now. From our global vision, we read, we envision a world in which we live as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. This idea of connection is so valuable right now. With this place we're in of having to be on Zoom to meet, or mask up and stay away from people, etc. And so what I've realized is that as it continues, and the times that we've had to be cocooned, so to speak, have lasted longer and longer, there are definitely times when we feel disconnected from the world, disconnected from our families, our friends, our communities, etc. Sometimes it feels like we're living in a vacuum. But the truth is that our simplest thoughts and actions, the decisions that we're making every single day, are deeply meaningful, and they can have a profound effect on everybody around us. And you can see this as you watch what's happening in the rest of our country, and in fact the rest of our world. It's like people feel so disconnected that they're getting angry. They're uprising in so many different places. There's riots happening all over the planet. And the illness seems to be getting worse in some places and better in others. And we're disconnected in that way. But the truth is, we're not disconnected. We've never been, we never will be. The earth and everything on it is bound by this invisible connection that we call the divine, first cause, God, whatever it is that we call it. This divine energy is absolutely everywhere. It's in everybody, animals, plants, the air, the water, the soil. It's in absolutely everything, and it's connecting us. And so sometimes it seems like insignificant little actions can affect people in the environment that seem entirely separate from our personal realm of existence. And so one of the things I'm really getting right now is that we have to stay awake. We definitely have to stay awake. You know, this morning I had fed the cats, and I was walking towards my bedroom to put some clothes on, at least the top part, right? And the sun, you know, it's been really overcast all this morning, and suddenly there was this beam of light that came streaming in the living room window, and it hit a picture that I have that Marianne did. It's one of the cats, and it's called Enlightenment. And I took a picture and I sent it to her via email because it just blew me away. Nothing else, it's on a shelf, nothing else on my shelf was lit by that sunbeam except for that picture. And it was like the universe telling me, this is what life is all about. This is what we're doing together. This idea of enlightenment. So this idea of staying awake to the interconnection of our lives with everybody around us, it to me is this whole idea of we is greater than me. So when I was in India many years ago, I got to go through this forested area that was so beautiful. And I sat on this bench underneath this huge tree. And on this bench was a sign. And it talked about how the tree was, you know, out of the various trees in the forest came houses and furniture and everything. And I thought about that when I was thinking about this talk. And I thought, think about buying a piece of furniture. I mean, think about it, you know, a wooden piece of furniture, perhaps, a wooden bench, let's say. So the wood was once part of a tree, which was part of a forest, which is part of an ecosystem. Someone was paid to cut down the tree, someone else to cut the lumber, and someone else to make the bench. Their incomes each had a positive effect on their families. And from that income, somebody's family was supported. Perhaps children grew up and went to college, studied medicine or education. Some might have become a teacher. Some might have influenced lots of lives. That wooden bench might have been used in somebody's place of business or home or even in a sanctuary. The tree being cut down may have had a negative impact on the forest or the animals that made that tree their home. Perhaps somebody protested the cutting of the tree, and a higher awareness of caring for the environment was raised in the people. And maybe new laws or actions resulted that impacted our planet's ecology. All from one little tree. So what I'm saying is that no action is neutral. No action is neutral. An encouraging word to a child about their special talents can influence them to develop that and enhance their gift, so someday perhaps their inventions might change the lives of millions of people. A poem written merely to express oneself, and you know, we've heard Edward's poems, and that the new poet that I like on Facebook, John Rodell, that I've shared on my page, some of his wonderful poems. I think those poems were written not to become popular or have our become bestsellers or whatever. They're written to soothe something in our souls, in their souls. But that poem can make a stranger reading it miles away feel less alone, because there's somebody out there who feels exactly the way they do. We are all together. We are connected. And therefore, the we is greater than the me. Dr. Holmes writes in Richer Living, every heart responds to the warmth of love. Every mind yearns for its embrace, and no life is complete without it. Love really is the fulfillment of the law of good. Love alone can heal the world and cause people to live together in unity and peace. Love alone. So that's our job. I think I mentioned a few weeks ago that Dr. Holmes said if he could rename this teaching, he would call it the science of mind and the religion of the heart. And I believe that as we remember the connection, in fact, I think of it like a divine matrix or Indra's net, then we begin to see that the we is much greater than me. And you know, this idea that the we is greater than me is not a new idea. This was understood by pre-Christian traditions, but were ironically written out of Christian texts in the 4th century. However, they weren't written out of Tibetan Buddhism, Hinduism, and the traditions of the indigenous people. These people do not compartmentalize their spirituality. To them, everything is holy. A trip to the market is holy. An encounter with a friend is a sacred activity. Walking to the well to get water was a sacred journey. And just a few years ago, Wayne Dyer said, when you meet anyone, treat the event as a holy encounter. So I have a couple stories to share about how people have done this in the past. There's a story about a farmer who grew award-winning corn. Every year he entered his corn in the state fair where it won a blue ribbon. Every year. One year a newspaper reporter interviewed him and learned something interesting about how he grew it. The reporter discovered that the farmer shared his seed corn with his neighbors. He asked him, how can you afford to share your best seed with your neighbors when they're entering corn in competition with yours each year? Well, said the farmer, don't you know? The wind picks up pollen from the ripening corn and swirls it from field to field. If my neighbors grow inferior corn, cross-pollination will steadily degrade the quality of my corn. If I am to grow good corn, I must help my neighbors grow good corn. You know, this is the way it is with our lives. Those who want to live in peace have to live in peace and share that with their neighbors. Help other people to live in peace. Those that wish to live well must help others to live well. For the value of a life is measured by the number of lives that are touched. And those that want to be happy must help others find happiness. Our welfare, our spiritual, mental, physical, emotional welfare is not just about us. It's about the we. And I think this is so important for us right now. I mean, I love the idea of this story. If you want good corn, you've got to share good corn. You've got to help others grow good corn. Oops. Darn it. Now my mouse isn't working very well. This is a quote by Albert Schweitzer. Just as the wave cannot exist for itself but must always participate in the swell of the ocean, so we can never experience life by ourselves, but must always share the experience of life that takes place all around us. This talking about the ocean in this quote makes me think about the fact that long ago I learned that the same saline solution that is in our ocean is in everything. It's in our bodies, it's in the plants, it's in the animals, it's in everything that's alive. And you know what? In my experience, everything is alive. Everything is alive. I have another story that I wanted to share with you. Bob Butler lost his legs in a 1965 landmine explosion in Vietnam. He returned to his hometown in Arizona, picked up his life, became a car mechanic. He was well known and well liked in the community. One of the families he had become friends with was a woman and her daughter who lived just down the street from Butler's garage. The little girl, 3 years old, and he had a unique connection because this little girl, named Stephanie, had been born with no arms. She had the legs, he had the arms. One day, as he was working in a garage, he heard a woman screaming and soon realized it was Stephanie's mom. He wheeled his chair down the street and instinctively knew what was wrong. They had a pool in the backyard. As he got near the house, the shrubbery was so dense he couldn't get his chair through, so he threw himself out of the wheelchair and crawled through the bushes to find Stephanie's mom screaming and Stephanie at the bottom of the pool. Butler dove to the bottom of the pool and brought little Stephanie up to the deck. Her face was blue, but she had no pulse and was not breathing. Butler began performing CPR, and he began to softly say to her, "Don't worry, we'll get through this. I'll be your breath. Together we can make it." Finally, Stephanie coughed and began to regain consciousness and began to cry. As they hugged and rejoiced each other with her mother, Butler knew he had completed a deep cycle of living. Because 20 years earlier, when his legs had been blown off in a field in Vietnam and he was all alone, no one was there to help except a little Vietnamese girl. And as she struggled to drag him to a nearby village, braving the threat of other landmines, the girl kept whispering to him in broken English, "It's okay, we get through this. I be your legs, we make it." Every action that we perform, everything that we do, everything that we think, say, feel, has an effect on the world around us. And so instead of thinking just of me, which we sort of teach ourselves to do in religious science, but then as we allow ourselves to become more spiritually mature, so to speak, we begin to realize it's not about me. It's not about my parking places or how much money I make or whatever I'm manifesting in my life. This gift of consciousness is for uplifting the whole of humanity. This gift is about we. Even science tells us this. Quantum entanglement, addressed by Einstein and other scientists, say we are intricately and forever connected. They showed that subatomic particles, once physically connected, then separated, are still connected. The particles can be eons apart, but when there is a shift or a movement in one, the other shifts in like manner. A rotation by one particle is matched by the other particle, no matter how great their distance. If these particles are so connected, so at one with other, then so are we forever connected to one another. I remember reading one of Deepak Chopra's first books. Maybe it was Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. I don't remember the title of the book. But I do remember that in this book he talked about taking some cells, I believe, from the inside of a former fighter pilot's mouth. And they shipped them clear across the United States to another lab. And at a certain time, they sat this former pilot down in front of a screen and showed him pictures of jets fighting, planes fighting, and being blown up in air, and all those things that this man possibly experienced while he was a fighter pilot. And at the same time that this man was watching this video, that laboratory, clear across the United States, was watching the cells in the petri dish, and those cells were reacting to that video, just as he was sitting there. And when I read that, I started thinking about that phrase they talk about where a butterfly flapping its wings here can cause a typhoon in China, or maybe it's vice versa, in China and here. And realizing that everything I do is going to have an effect on somebody else, something else, possibly someone's else, lots of people. And this is why it's so important to remember that it's not about me. It's about we. And the we together is greater than anything we could possibly imagine. Baha'u'llah, who's the founder of the Baha'i faith, says, "The utterance of God is a lamp, whose light is these words, Ye are the fruits of one tree, and the leaves of one branch. Deal ye one with another with the utmost love and harmony, with friendliness and fellowship. So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth." I really feel that it's time for us to start definitely walking our talk. I mean, I think about myself and how easy it is to get sidetracked into anger or resentment or being in a pity party. But yet, and I agree that we have all these emotions, we need to feel them, but the problem is we tend to buy into them and sit in them instead of being like a little child that feels the anger and 5 minutes later it's over. We drag it along with us. I did a workshop years and years ago with a woman who was an actress in Hollywood, and she called those things that we're dragging along with us precious turds. I've never forgotten that, because every time I find myself doing that, I think, oh my God, what am I doing? Dragging along those precious turds. I will allow myself to feel my feelings, as we all should. But remember, in this feeling of our feelings, it's still not about me. It's about the we, the wholeness of everything. So let's say this affirmation together. I allow the light of spirit to fill my being and spread love and peace throughout the universe. This is the blessing I offer. This is the blessing I receive. And so life is built from the inside out. I stand in awe of the whole and all the pieces as well. And so it is. And let's go into treatment. Gratefully, I acknowledge that I am part of something that is much larger than I could possibly ever imagine. I know this because I know that everything, absolutely everything, is God. This divine energy that is the source and substance of everything that I could possibly imagine and more. Divine energy is filled with both love and law, and as Dr. Holmes says, love points the way and law makes the way possible. And because I know this truth, I now allow myself to get out of any pity parties I've been in or resentment parties. I acknowledge why they're there and why I had those effects. But now I realize that those are no longer important. The truth is, my staying in anger attracts anger. My staying in poor little old me attracts more poor little old me. And as I look out and I see the anger in our world, I realize that I can change it. And I'm speaking in the first person for all of us. I can begin to feel my feelings, allow them to pass instead of carrying them with me. I can feel love. Love. I let that divine love fill me up so much that there isn't room to keep anything else at hand. And as I love, I begin to attract love. I begin to see love everywhere I go, everywhere I am. And love comes back to me, pressed down and running over. So I celebrate this idea that the we is greater than the me. And I remember esoterically, there isn't a me. There is only God expressing itself through all of us, through the we. And each one of us gets to be an individualized aspect of it, like the waves in the ocean. Each wave is different, and yet it's all made of the same stuff. It's all the one. So how grateful I am to know this truth. How grateful I am to be able to practice it, to be able to put it into place in my consciousness, in my heart, in my mind. How grateful I am to know that I am part of the transformational team and that I allow myself to participate in it with a deep sense of joy. I know that the work we're doing today leaves a better world for our children and their children and their children. And this is a good thing to know, a good thing to do, a good thing to be. It's a God thing. And so with a grateful heart, I release these words, knowing that they are so, and so it is. So this morning we get to hear music by Edward. And let me stop this share and start a new one.
Back then, it's called I Praise Your Name. It's in celebration of the many names that we call God, the Spirit, and that you like. It's got lyrics, but every time I try to sing, the dogs sing background. So there you go. So anyway, this.